Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep physician. And if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Today we're going to answer a question from Thessel. He's wondering, what should you do if CBTi is not working? If you've tried multiple times and it's just not working for you. Here are some thoughts. Hope you're doing super well today. And if you're new to the channel, a big welcome to you. Now, if you want a little bit of background, you can check out the comments to yesterday's video, which was number 167. That video was about how, pardon me, how it was about the end of insomnia, how insomnia doesn't end with you finding that kind of that magical supplement or something like that. So I think it was a really good episode, and more importantly, it led to a discussion. And this included a comment from Thessel where he was wondering, he was saying, like, thank you for all these videos and appreciated everything, but also wonders, what if CBTi is not the solution for somebody, So I want to spend some time on that. And by the way, I have communicated with Thessel in an email, and at some point, I think probably within the next few days, he said that I could share his story. So we will look at that as well and hopefully learn something from that. Now, back to the question. So today I'm just going to answer kind of the general question. What if CBTi, which is all I talk about, if you're new to the channel, CBTi is really what this channel is about. It's a handful of techniques that help you, get over your insomnia. Now, what if it isn't working? Well, the first thing that I want to say about that is, have you really tried CBTi? What I've come across a few times, I want to say maybe 3, 4, or 5 times or so on the channel here when I've interacted with people, is that somebody said, I've already tried CBTi. And that, when I see that, it makes me a little bit like, how should I put it? Like slightly discouraged, because if it doesn't work, then I'm like, oh, then it's going to be harder. So what I always do then is like, okay, tell me more, like what have you done and what were you thought? And so far, I've not come across anyone who's actually implemented it correctly. A lot of times it's like a little bit components of CBTi, but some sleep hygiene, maybe some medications too. And a lot of times it was like actually completely off. I was like, no, that was not CBTi at all. So when somebody asked me like, what I do if CBTi is not working, the first thing I ask is like, did you really try CBTi? Like, was it correctly executed CBTi? And again, so far on this channel, it has never actually been correctly executed CBTi. There's always been some components of it that weren't really properly done. So that's the first thing. Now, let's say somebody really has tried like properly, a proper CBTi, and it hasn't been successful. Then one thing that comes to my mind as a sleep doctor is, could you have sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is when somebody is like snoring loudly, tongue falls back in sleep, blocks the airway, you end up choking and gasping, which a lot of people don't notice that. A lot of people simply just cannot sleep. But what is typical is that they wake up and then fall back asleep, and wake up, fall back asleep. And those are pretty brief awakenings. Although it's not always, but that's the typical classic sleep apnea symptom. And snoring, of course, is a big portion of it. If you don't snore, it's very rare, very unlikely that you have sleep apnea. But sleep apnea can definitely mimic insomnia. So if somebody is like snoring, having fragmented sleep, feeling sleepy during the day, that's something to keep in mind. So that's the second thought I had. Thirdly, I want to say that there are some people that really commit to CBTi, still have a hard time. And usually when somebody really tries CBTi properly done and has a hard time, the most common reason is that there is a very, very strong component of anxiety. And that anxiety kind of just overrides all the attempts at getting better. So when that is the case, it is difficult. I think CBTi definitely still can help, but sometimes you just cannot get to a point where you sleep well if you have really strong anxiety. So that has to be addressed. And I don't know, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but addressing that underlying anxiety can be another very important thing. And then finally, I want to say there's another group of people who find that CBTi is a little bit too like strict and militant, and like you have to be up this time, you can't go to bed before this time, you have to, some people just just cannot comply with that. It's just difficult, and I have very much empathy with that. It is very difficult. And I think for that subgroup of people, I think another good thing to explore is MBTi, which stands for mindfulness-based therapy for insomnia, which is very related to ACT, or acceptance commitment therapy. By the way, if you feel that is you, then I can recommend this book. It's called The Sleep Book by Dr. Guy Meadows, and it has a like ACT or MBTI. Sorry, messing this up a little bit. Is a very different approach where the focus really lies on kind of externalizing yourself from a lot of the thoughts that are keeping you awake, racing thoughts, anxieties, obsessions, or obsessive thoughts, things like that. And it's hard to explain how it's done, and I'm not an expert by any means, but the essence of it is that, let's say you're thinking, a thought pops into your mind such as, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sleep again. The typical reaction is that we engage with the thought. We go like, oh my gosh, it was just like yesterday. Now I'm not going to sleep again. And what's going to happen then tomorrow? I'm going to feel this way. And that's engaging with the thought. You kind of fall in the thought, see where it goes. The ACT technique is that when you think like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sleep, then you instead say, well, here's that thought again, looking at the thought from the outside, something like that. I've had this thought before. It's something to that effect. A good analogy is the one with a river. Like if you try to like stop a river by wading out into the river, you cannot. It just will sweep you away. But if you stand on the side of the river and just observe it, it can't harm you. Something like that. So those are my main thoughts when it comes to like the general question of CBTi isn't working, what to do. So again, we will hear more about Thessel's story going forward. And I just want to share you a few more things before I let you go here. Another comment from episode 157 from yesterday was from Ellen, who was wondering, if you restrict your time in bed, as you should with classic CBTi, she said it seems that very few people get back, can extend their time in bed again. They kind of get stuck in this shorter sleep period. What's up with that? We're going to address that tomorrow. And also we're going to read an email from Judith from the Netherlands. And I want to share with you a kind of a preview here. This is how Judith sleeps. She sent me this picture illustrating how she sleeps. I just want to share with you. I thought it was a little bit funny. We had a laugh about that. And she's trying what's called wake therapy, which we'll also talk about. So I hope this video was helpful, and hope to see you back again tomorrow. And until then, take it easy.